Okay, so this is the video lecture for Chapter 4 of the Brimley text, which is Patterns for School Finance Systems. So basically, what you need to know is that if you were at any university in the United States taking a superintendent level finance class, you would have this book. This is what every single university uses. This is the most common book. Going to the National Education Finance Conference, this is the book that they all sit around and they talk about, and this is the one that they work on revisions on. Money in Schools, which you all used for your master's level, at least I hope you did. That one is the principal level finance class. This one is the superintendent level finance book. So these are the two that are like the definitive books on educational finance. So I don't do the first 3 chapters because I'm assuming, we're not going to talk about the economics of education or, or building level finance. We're going to do ones that are more systematic. So what you need to know about this book is that this is the perspective that superintendents need to have on finance. It is not how to be a business manager. It is not what the business administrator does. It's what should a superintendent know about school finance. That's why 2 different books basically for the class, because one of them is the superintendent perspective, the other one is how do you be a business manager. So we'll give you a quote in key concepts. So here's the other nice little twist that comes with this book. When you take the superintendency test, this is the book that you will probably have questions on finance on. The other reason, too, is because of this beautiful little label that's on the bottom corner of the book. They're the one that's designing the superintendency test, and this is the book that they decided that they're going to use for the superintendency test. If it's coming from Pearson, this is what they're going to use. So what I have done, I give you the quote because I think the quote's nice and cute and whatever, and it gives you a good idea of what the chapter is. But this is important, because if you're going to go back through these and you're going to say, what do I need to know for the superintendent level exam, they're going to give you the key concepts. The new superintendency exam is now all multiple choice, and anywhere between 9 and 16% of it is directly tied to school finance, depending on what questions you get. So before you take the exam, if you want to review, I would go through these PowerPoints. I would look at the key concepts, and I would take the key concepts and I would say, do I understand what each one of these are? Does it make sense to me, and could I answer a multiple choice question on it? The pass rate for the exam right now, in order to pass it, I think is 60 to 65%. As long as you get 2/3 of the questions right, you pass the exam and you're certified. So that's going to be the new change, and it'll be interesting to see how that goes. So what could you potentially have for school finance programs at the state level? You could have complete state operation of public schools. This basically reduces the administrative responsibilities of school boards. The state steps in and the state does everything. You could get rid of locally raised funds, and you could have a district equalization approach. Most states use district equalization. Oklahoma uses district equalization because we have to make sure that there's a fair balance, and we would not want the state taking all of the money. If the state took all the money and distributed it evenly, would we have angry parents in the richer school districts? We would have fuming parents in the richer school districts saying, why is my money going to school district A because I live in school district B? So this did not come out too well on my copy, but that's okay. What I want you to really know more than anything is that most states have foundation or district power equalization, or they have a combination approach. That's really where everything goes. Full state funding and flat grants, you're not going to see much of that. The federal government would like us to go to this system, but we're not there yet. So we're going to see a combination, which honestly, combination is fair and equitable. And where your fund's going to come from, they're mostly going to come from income taxes, sales taxes, and in the majority of states, it will come from lottery and gambling. This state does do a little bit with lottery and gambling, but not much. Why? Who controls the gambling funds in the state of Oklahoma?
Native American tribes.
The Indian tribes, the Native Americans. So that's actually taking away on a lot of the money that schools get. Why does Ohio have all the money right now? I mean, like when we're looking at states And I say this in Pennsylvania too. I wish Pennsylvania had the money Ohio had. Pennsylvania, all of our gambling money and all of our lottery money goes to senior citizens. It's what they voted on. Every cent of it goes to senior citizens. Not a dime goes to education. In Ohio, the casino and the lottery monies all go to education. So what happens? What's the difference between Ohio and Pennsylvania then? What do their schools look like that are different? Ohio schools are newer.
Yeah, better facilities.
The better facilities are much better.
And so if they're newer, better facilities, they're going to attract.
They're going to attract more people to move in, and then what happens then?
Tax base goes up.
Tax base goes up, property values increase, and teacher salaries go up. And that's one of the issues we had when casinos came in Pennsylvania. And I kind of lived through that and watched this when I was doing my doctorate program, because casinos are a relatively new thing in Pennsylvania and Ohio. And Ohio said, we're taking all the money and we're using it for education. Pennsylvania said, we're taking all the money and we're giving it to senior citizens. And we're seeing Ohio become a much more competitive state than Pennsylvania.
So Pennsylvania, are there more senior citizens moving in?
Yes.
Because of that?
Yeah, Pennsylvania is now the second oldest state in the United States. It used to be in the top 10, but it's now 2, next only to Florida.
Wow.
Yeah, but they get mostly everything paid for. So, full state funding, if we were to go to a full state funding system. Now, mind you, I do need to say this. This book is the most liberal book you will ever read in your life. This book is going to push the Democratic Party on you. It is going to push a Democratic agenda on you. You do what you want with that. I believe in fair and balance, but I'm letting you know that's kind of what this book does. So this book says the state should, this book really pushes for full state funding. It pushes that, we need to eliminate local control. We need to divide the funds up evenly distribute them, and make sure that everybody gets the same fair share of money. That's what this book is going to tell you, because we're changing our climate. I know, you know, that if we did that, we would have screaming parents, screaming school boards, screaming problems. And could it create equity? Yeah, but one of the problems that you have when you raise up the low is that you push down the top. So how do you balance it? What do you do? It's going to level up some districts and it's going to level down. So you need to know that when you're looking at some of the stuff that's in this textbook. So district power equalization basically says that the state gives you financial responsibility, but the local district can determine local effort and local spending, meaning that the state puts a cap on things. But if the local district wants to do more, they can raise the millage and they can raise the weight in order to better their district and better their facilities. I like this. I think it's balanced. If your district wants a new building and they want a new facility and they want to raise the taxes, and you have a public and a population that wants to support a property tax hike, shouldn't you do it? If the population wants to do it, yeah. But if the population doesn't want to do it, then, this is a balanced approach. District power equalization is very balanced. So one of the issues that we run into right now is, is this notion of property reassessment and local district revenues. What are our properties worth? And our properties are only worth as much as the school district that we live in. What a property's worth in one state is completely different than what it's worth in another. The example that I give is I live in Pennsylvania. I have a home in one of the 5 richest districts in the state. My home is a shack. If we tried to sell our home in Oklahoma, we'd probably get about $30,000 for it, but it is a $160,000 home in Pennsylvania. It's a $160,000 home in Pennsylvania only because of the district that it's at and because of the close proximity to the city of Pittsburgh. But I put that home in any other district, any other state, the home would be condemned, it would be falling apart, but because it's in a rich district, the home value increases and it goes up. So of course, my property taxes go up, but yet if I was in a different district, it would be different. So, but property reassessment and local taxes do fund schools. And when schools perform well, property values go up. There is a direct correlation, and it's why I really want you to know what the American dream looks like. Once again, the American dream is what?
1,600 square feet.
1,600 square feet, 3-bedroom. How many children?
2.4.
2.4 kids. That is the American dream. What does the American dream look like in your district? So there is not a good state finance policy. It doesn't exist. All of our future plans and what this district is trying to, what this book is trying to teach you, really is this idea that more state and more federal involvement. But my belief is you need a two-tiered system. You need to have the state involved, and you need to have the right people in charge at the state, but you also have to have the right people in charge in the district. In my ideal world, the federal government would not be involved in it, but we're not in an ideal world. A balance between state and district equally would be the dream. How do you get there? What does that look like? I mean, it's different from state to state. So, equalizations of service. This is really one of the big ideas of this chapter, because certain adjustments happen based on disability cost. And Oklahoma was actually one of the leaders in this. Oklahoma was one of the first states that basically assigned weights to children based on the disabilities they have. Why is that good?
Because they take more resources.
Yes, yeah, special ed students take more resources. Why was Oklahoma so proactive in doing that?
More federal dollars.
Why?
We must have a high rate of special ed students in our state.
No, we don't.
We don't.
What don't we have in our state?
Special ed services?
Unions.
Oh,
And that's one of the main reasons why we're able to waive it. In a state that has unions, if you were the special ed teacher, you're going to make the same as the first grade teacher, same as the elementary teacher, same class sizes, same rights and restrictions. Without a union to block that from happening, we actually could do adjustments. So Oklahoma really was one of the first states that started this. So what we know in the United States for special ed really came from Oklahoma. Oklahoma has two big things going for it. Oklahoma was one of the leaders in the United States in what? What else? Besides special ed, weighting, and adjustments, what else does this state do tremendously well?
Pre-K.
Pre-K better than freaking anywhere. The knowledge of pre-K, knowledge of preschool, better than anywhere. And that's the two things that if you were to go to any other state and say, what does Oklahoma have? That's what they're going to say Oklahoma has. So we'll talk about weighting a little bit, just giving you an example of it. Depends on the school attendance area, where transportation costs are. We're going to cover all this throughout the class. This is the big idea. So if you're going to star something and say, what am I going to ask you on the quiz? What are the easy questions? The quiz questions for this block, this is the big thing that you're going to have to know. This is the 5 different considerations to determine how much money goes where. These are the big 5 ideas. So we'll talk about each one. So isolation of pupils in rural areas is huge in Oklahoma. Right now, this state is more against mergers and consolidations than any other state that exists. Why is it so against it?
Those towns, it's their whole identity.
Well, but why? You're right, John. But why is it their whole identity? Because of their. I mean, you're right. You're 1,000,000% right. What is the identity to that town?
Their schools.
Their athletics. Yeah.
Their football team.
Their football team. I mean, that's it. So they're unwilling to merge because it's going to really hurt their athletics. It has nothing to do with school improvement, because in theory, some of these district schools would improve with a merger. But you can't get rid of the town identity and get rid of the athletic program. I'm an outsider. My guess is that 10 to 15 years, schools are going to be forced to consolidate just because the money's not there anymore. But we allow in this state for this to happen, and we have so many school districts because the state actually takes more money than they have to pay the districts to stay isolated. And in any other states, you would have leaders that would be pushing merger, 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 consolidation, consolidation, consolidation. Our state takes federal money and state money and gives it to the districts, which you do not see that in the United States. So heavily populated metropolitan areas, this basically says we give more funding to them because the individuals are struggling to pay their taxes. However, this is a big, big, big idea. This money comes from federal, not state level. And that's the case all throughout the United States. In your metropolitan urban districts, most of this money comes from federal grants. If you believe in state and local control, you don't like the idea of federal grants. What happens when a federal grant comes into play?
Federal accountability.
Federal accountability. That's the direct correlation with it. What happens to your autonomy with federal accountability? Down significantly. So that's the challenge and that's the trade-off. So I support this. This is one thing in Oklahoma that they're losing. I guess they're losing something on, but it's something that I believe in. I believe that the grade levels of pupils should be, we should actually do something in this state, and I hope I don't offend anybody by saying this, but in my dream world, we would have more kids in high school classes and less in early childhood classes. I realize that people don't want to hear 30 to 40 kids in a high school classroom, but you have to cut somewhere to give money somewhere else. And there has to be a place where it is. And what does research tell you? Research says that you have to serve the students right in the early childhood grades, and if you do that, they should be prepared for larger class sizes in high school. In a smart and ideal world, you would have team teaching, you would have additional paraprofessionals, and it's something that would make a difference. State legislation does not support this, though. They do to an extent, but in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, they, class size increases significantly in this state. We protect our preschool and we protect our kindergarten, but we're not doing it with the upper elementary grades, and in a lot of ways, that's kind of the last chance you have to get at a kid before they get to high school. So I believe in weighting based on grade levels of pupils. The problem with this is where do you cut and what do you do? So people argue against this because most of the time salary schedules don't make differentiation between grade levels. I wish we could pay our elementary teachers less money. I would be all for that. Why could we pay our elementary teachers less money in theory? What were you guys talking about when you came in here? I'm shocked that some of you were saying you needed an English teacher, but what do you all need in your buildings that are high schools? You need what? What type of teachers?
Science.
Science and math. Everyone needs science and math teachers. How do you get science and math teachers in theory then? Pay more money. How many people want to be elementary school teachers? A lot of people want to be elementary school teachers. That's like the dream. If somebody wants to do a job, in theory, what can you do? Pay them less. It's the balance. So it's, that's, in my ideal world, we would have smaller class sizes and we would pay our early childhood educators that want to be there starting out less money. And we would see how that works.
The ENID, I think it's ENID, they're paying a signing bonus to their math and science teachers, $2,000 signing bonus.
And it's brilliant. And what are they doing? Are they distributing it over each year, or is it just at one point?
I think it's just 1 point. Just sign, if you sign on and you, I didn't read the whole thing, but I think it's if you, finish your contract for that year, you get your signing bonus.
I got it every year in Kansas.
Yeah, yeah, and it was, and I know, I think Oklahoma City was pushing, what is it, $2,000 to $3,000 extra for high needs science and math and special ed. I'm in favor of that. I mean, I just, I think would attract more people. But
Special ed they get a 5%.
Special ed gets.
Yeah.
5%.
Yeah.
Music was I got it in Kansas every year. Music was a
Hard to fill.
short area, yeah.
well, I mean, you're also dealing with 150 students in some classes who would want that job, like.
Shut down the whole music program and save all kinds of money.
Yeah, right.
It's like 4 classrooms in the orchestra room.
What are you gonna do with all those kids, John?
Yeah, exactly. What are you gonna do with the 100 kids that want to be in
50
band?
kids in
There
Spanish.
you go.
50 kids in Spanish, no problem.
Yeah.
I'll take 50
Great.
kids in Calvin.
We're almost there.
I was gonna say we're close.
This is a big problem in this state, is the cost of doing business. A lot of people that are superintendents pay for very poor decisions that others have made. And you need to know this, because you have to fund the poor decisions and erroneous management techniques that people have made. It increases accountability in your positions. It also increases how you're looked at for the activities that you do. So here's the problem that happens. You're 58, 59, 60 years old and you have enough years to retire. Can they get you for anything if you retire, if you made those decisions? They could go after you civilly, but most districts aren't going to pay the price of doing that. They're not. So what tends to happen is the cost of doing business happens to be whoever the next superintendent is, they get stuck with